Hey guys, Jordy from Seven Eagle Group. I am so excited today for uh, Dave Schantz to join me online. Um, Dave is a retired U.S. Navy veteran and just one of these guys who is probably one of the leading experts on SkillBridge. And I am just so impressed with Dave's commitment to the community. I've been following him and all of his posts and his support of people for about half a year now. And I truly don't feel you'll find anybody out there who knows more about the nuances of this program and who knows how service members can leverage it to their advantage to get that great position. And Dave is also, as I mentioned, he's retired from the Navy, so he's working in information technology with General Dynamics. So he's got a lot of great different perspectives, and we're going to hear all of his advice today. So Dave, thank you for taking some time this morning. I know it's early out in San Diego.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Awesome. So we're going to ask Dave a series of different topics. We're going to get his advice on each one of these. So it's going to be super informative. So let's start out. If you don't mind, tell everyone a little bit about your military experience. What made you join? What was your service like? What were some of the benefits or character traits that you came away from that made you a better person by serving?
Yeah. So I was I got into a lot of trouble when I was younger. I thought I knew it all. I was definitely one of those. Mom couldn't tell me anything. I knew it all. Got in trouble in school. Barely graduated high school, not because I wasn't smart, but because I wasn't going to school. And so all my friends my senior year were going periods 1 through 3 or 1 through 4, and then going home because they took care of all their classes. But here I am, I'm going 1 through 8 and no lunch because I've got to make up for all the classes that I failed my sophomore and junior year. So I was a real bonehead. Grew up in Brooklyn, moved to Staten Island for high school, and realized that I didn't really create any options for myself. And I was still I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't mature enough. I knew that I was just gonna pay for college but not go to class. So what was the point of that? So joined the Navy in '99. Was a sonar technician in the Navy, so I did anti-submarine warfare. Did 21 years in the Navy and retired at the end of February of 2020.
Wow. What do you feel? How do you feel the Navy made you a better person?
The Navy really forced me to grow up. It's they treat you like an adult. They expect you to act like an adult, and if you don't do the things that you're supposed to do, well, there are consequences, either personally or professionally. So I really needed to learn the work ethic that I hadn't learned from an early age. Perfect that. Taught me leadership skills. Right there, you start off with a small project, and then you go on to leading larger teams. So it was really the big growing up for me, and learning what it's going to take to be successful in life and in this world.
And when did you decide what you wanted to do for your career, and sort of what was that transition like for you?
So when it was my second tour in the Navy. I was an instructor. And looking back on my 21 years, that was the time when I had the most fun. That was the time when I felt the most like I had the most purpose, right? For me, in the Navy, we call it A school. And so after boot camp, people go to their respective Navy schools to learn their individual trade. And that was when I was teaching initial entry students. So they were coming out of boot camp, wanting to become a sonar tech. And so I was basically teaching them, from the ground up, what it was going to be like for oceanography and sonar and acoustic analysis and intelligence and stuff like that. And so seeing those light bulbs come on, and for a lot of it, it's like teaching, a foreign language to these students in a very short amount of time, and having them show me some kind of understanding, right? So that way they can go out to the fleet and perform it. And so it just brought a lot of job satisfaction to me. And so when I decided to retire, that's what I went back to, is because that's what I had the most amount of fun doing and the most job satisfaction.
Yeah. And talk briefly about what you're doing now for career-wise. And
yeah, so when I retired, I did a SkillBridge opportunity with General Dynamics Information Technology. So I did 6 months of an unpaid fellowship and loved every minute of it. Ended up getting hired on by GDIT to continue to do training. But even after I got hired, I didn't stop talking about the SkillBridge program. I thought so highly of the program. I thought it was extremely beneficial, especially the way my manager was able to facilitate the program for me. And I just kept talking about it and sharing it with other people. And some folks from my company, some directors and VPs from GDIT saw what I was doing online, and they created a new job for me. And now I lead General Dynamics Information Technologies SkillBridge program.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. And I assume you've been putting some people through the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in 2021, we 5X the program. So between our numbers from 2020 and 2021, we increased by 5 times. And
good for you, man. That is awesome. And what the thing I love the most about you is you're juggling your personal life, your GD responsibilities, but yet every day you're online helping not only the candidates, but you're also helping the businesses get organized. Why do you do that?
It's just a love. It's just people. You hear these motivational speakers talking about, you got to find your passion, find your why. And it's very difficult for a lot of people. It was difficult for me. I don't know. I do things for my family. I do things, for my son, because I want them to have a good life, but that's not necessarily my love, right? Like what I'm doing is not necessarily my love. And I fell into it. I think so highly of the SkillBridge program. I wanted to help my transitioning brothers and sisters kind of have the same or similar kind of opportunities that I had and land on their feet. And it's difficult. There aren't many industries out there where you literally need a transition plan to go from one job to the next kind of job, or one industry to the next. And, definitely for the military, it's so different than anything out there in the regular world, that there is a transition process, and, a lot goes into it. So I'm very happy to, answer any questions, help them, transition successfully. And that's really what I want to do, is help service members transition successfully. And so in order to do that, I've also got to reach the businesses. I've got to talk to the businesses and have them, get on board with the SkillBridge program and want them to participate, because if only one company wanted to participate, we've got, 200,000 transition service members every year. One company can't take them all on. So
yeah, no, that's great. You're impacting an enormous amount of people, I'm sure, and a lot more than I'm sure you realize. So thank you for all that. All right, let's jump into this. So first topic, choosing that career path. One of the big challenges I see is people come out of the military, or as they're getting ready to transition, and they're just taking any job. They're not really putting more than a few minutes of thought into it. And I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah. So the Department of Labor came out with a statistic in probably 2019, maybe early 2020, that said up to 70% of transitioning service members left their first job within the first year after they got out of service. 70%, that's a ton. Yeah. And so that tells me one of two things. Either A, the service member is not leaning into who they are and what they enjoy, or B, they got the right job with the wrong company, because they didn't look into the company culture. They didn't look into, they didn't hold their informational interviews and find out what a day in the life is going to be like at that company. So I agree with you. Yeah, a lot of service members are just kind of, picking from the air and, hoping that something sticks. And that's not really what should be done, right? Think about what it is you enjoy, right? What do you want to do? What's going to make you happy to wake up and go to work? If you're waking up every day and you're like, oh my God, I hate my job. I can't wait until I get off. I don't know if anybody follows Gary Vaynerchuk, but he's got this video. It's, FU Monday, right? Where people are waking up and, they're like, not looking forward to going to their job, and they can't wait for the weekend. And, if that's your life, then it's time to change it. That's not the way to live your life. A third of your life is working. So a third of your life, you're miserable. Why do that to yourself? Go out and find something that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah. And every service member should understand that he or she has developed some incredible skill sets and a strong foundation to be successful in any career path, right? So it's just, don't feel like just because you had a certain MOS that you got to find that exact job in the civilian world.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did anti-submarine warfare in the Navy. And let me tell you, I realized that I didn't really love it anymore. When I started instructing, it was something that I loved doing when I was in the Navy, and then seeing, kind of the background, the politics, right? How courses are developed and how standards are implemented and created. I didn't really agree with a lot of those things. And so I stopped loving it. And so, I needed to make a pivot. And yeah, you know, finding what you're good at and what you enjoy are going to be things that are going to keep you happy in life.
Good. Awesome. All right. Next, networking. I know you're awesome at this. This is something right up your alley, but talk about how a service member who's probably never really had to do this in a civilian world, what are some of the tips? What are some of the things that they can do to really build a strong group around them?
Yeah. So networking, people don't realize that everyday life is networking, right? What you're doing today is networking. How you are at your job with your commander, with your unit, is networking. People are judging you based on what they see from you every day. And so who you are as a person, right? How helpful are you? How knowledgeable are you at your job, right? So all of that's going to go into it. And that's one of the things that I started thinking about when I was debating on whether or not I was going to stay in or I was going to retire. Was I thought of, you know, if I opened a business today, I looked around my command and I looked at everybody. Would I hire you, right, based on what I know from you, right?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of people that I wouldn't have hired because of their work ethic or their attitude or, you know, whatever the case may be. And then there were others that were like, you know what, that person's awesome. I would love to work with that person. I think, you know, they would help my business grow, kind of thing. And so if you think about it like that, you've already started networking with people that are at your current unit and then those that are, you know, from your previous units. Moving forward, it's a good idea to establish a LinkedIn account, Facebook. You know, you can use Facebook for more than just looking at, you know, pictures of friends and stuff. You can use it for networking stuff as well. But reach out to those people that are doing the job that you think you want to do. So whatever it is you think you want to transition to out of the military, go and find those companies that employ people that do those jobs, and then reach out and find those people that are actually doing it and hold informational interviews with them, right? What is it that you're doing on a daily basis? What's the great thing about your job? What's the worst part of your job, right? That's something else is, you know, if you can't handle or you don't want to handle the worst part of a job, then that's probably not the job for you, right? And every job is not going to be perfect. There's always going to be some kind of suck in each job. So if you don't want to handle the worst part of it, then you probably shouldn't go that way. But networking is all about getting people to know you and like you, right? Putting your best foot forward. And, you know, because more people get hired these days because of who they know instead of what they know.
Right.
So if I were to put somebody in a room with 10 strangers and ask them to get $1 from each of them, how many people, how much money would you walk away with? Compared to if I put you in a room with 10 of your family members, how much money would you walk away with? What's the difference between those two examples? Hopefully your family likes you, right? They know you and they like you. And so hopefully they want to give you money, right?
Yeah.
Those strangers, they don't know you. Why are they going to help you? So networking is all about getting to know people, providing value to them, right? Especially if you provide value to people first, then maybe they want to provide value to you when it's your turn. Okay. Right. So if you're helping people while you're in the service and it's a recruiter or it's a, you know, a business of some sort, and then it's your turn to separate or retire and you're looking for a job, they're already thinking highly of you, right? You already helped them. You already provided value to them up front. And so now they're more inclined to want to help you and do for you.
That's great, man. I love that advice you said on the informational interview front. And two, you could reach out to veterans, you could reach out to civilians, you know, so anyone, most people who didn't serve, I didn't serve in the military. Anytime when I was over my last 30 years, anytime anyone in service reached out to me, I'd make time for them because you feel it's a nice thing to do. It's a responsibility. It's a way we can pay back. So don't be awkward, man. You got to get out of your shell, like you said, and just throw it out there, and people will help you if you ask them. You know,
people want to help. Yeah, and there are organizations all over the place. You know, not just. I mean, Seven Eagle does a great job. You guys are out there helping service members. You know, there are a lot of these nonprofits that are out there. Veterati, they have mentors, and you know, Vets to Industry. They're one of my favorite. Vets to Industry. They're putting on monthly networking events specifically to help people get out of their shell, talk to other people. They got civilian business leaders that also attend these networking events, and so you can ask, you know, questions of them. And so there are a lot of resources that are out there to help transition service members network.
That's great. And your advice too, networking is a two-way street. So just even if you have something to add, you know, help a fellow service member overcome a challenge you had to in your job search. But that's great. All right, next one. SkillBridge. So this is your expertise in the SkillBridge. So talk a little bit about why somebody should consider doing a SkillBridge internship.
Yeah, so for military members, right? Most military members don't leave service to do the same thing out of service that they did while in service.
Right.
So that almost always looks like some kind of upskilling or retraining. So if you're not going to do the same thing that you've been doing while in service, how much background, how much experience do you have in that job field? And if your answer is little to none, then utilizing the SkillBridge program will help you get that experience, help you learn those people, learn those resources, get networked within the industry. Those are going to be, important steps for you to take in order to bridge the gap between what you're doing now and what it is you want to do. So SkillBridge allows you to do an unpaid internship or apprenticeship with the company of your choosing for up to 180 days with the high likelihood of being employed at the end. So it's little to no risk for you, right, as a service member, because you're still collecting all of your pays, benefits, and allowances with the DoD. And it's little to no risk to the company because they're not paying for anything. They're just spending their time training you on a need that they have and a desire that you have. Right. And so it's just a match made in heaven. It's a great way for no risk to be able to try it out. And even if it doesn't work out with the company that you do your SkillBridge opportunity with, at least you have that industry experience that you can then put on your resume and then, apply to other companies.
Yeah. I truly think it's the best thing the military has done since like paying for college tuition for people. I mean, it's just an amazing program and everyone should look into it because just the competitive edge you have over any other job seeker who was probably trying to go for that same job at GD that you eventually got, they're going to give it to the person they've seen in action for 6 months, not taking a risk off of somebody off the street. So
exactly. Yeah, that's perfectly said. So for companies, even if you hire your 10 out of 10 off the street, you're still not getting all the value from that person when you first hire them, right? Because they have to learn the people, they have to learn the resources, they have to learn the day-to-day. And so the money you're paying that person, that new employee, you're actually losing money on because they're attached to somebody else's hip. They're wearing training wheels of some kind while they learn, everything. And so you can take care of all that on the free side when you bring on a service member for a SkillBridge opportunity. That way, when you hire that service member, the training wheels come off. They've already learned the day-to-day and the resources and the people and what needs to be done. So when you start paying them, they hit the ground running, training wheels come off, and the money you're paying them is making you money.
Yeah, well said. All right, next, resume. I'm not a big resume guy, but it's a necessary part of the job search. Talk about some of your favorite advice for somebody who's crafting one for the first time, probably.
Yeah, definitely. So resumes, and I'm definitely not a resume expert as well, and it's not really something that I enjoy doing. But one of the things that I do when I am writing a resume, I'm always tailoring my resume to the actual job description. So resumes are basically you telling your story in that company's language. So if you look at a system administrator job description from GDIT and you look at a system administrator job description from any other tech company, they're not going to read the same. There's going to be different language in them. So what I do is I highlight the entire job description and I paste it onto a Word document. And then I get rid of all the words that don't mean anything, like he, she, them, to, it, they, right? And then what are you left with? You're left with the meat and potatoes. You're left with all the keywords that company is using in their job description. And then all I do is I look at my resume and I look at their keywords and I just take their keywords and I put them into my resume and I tell my story in their language.
That's brilliant. I've never heard that advice. That's brilliant. I love that. Because a lot of times it's a computer going through this for the first time, not a real human. So they're like, holy crap, we got 10 out of 10 keywords matched here. Let's talk to this guy.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And so you're telling your story in their language. I just lost my train of thought as far as resume writing. I'm not the expert, and thankfully I haven't really had to write too many resumes. But that's like the first thing that I do. And then also with resumes, keeping a master resume. Okay, master resumes come into play for like federal jobs, right? Federal resumes are like 15 pages long. You sneezed on a set of a TV show that you were working on, take credit for that. It's kind of one of those things. So, it's much longer and, much more detailed. So have a master. And then depending on the type of job that you want to go for, you can take your master and you can start pulling from it and then making your 2-page or 1-page, tailored resume for a specific job.
It's a pain. I know it's a pain in the ass when you're applying to a lot of jobs to do all this tailoring, but believe me, it is well worth that extra effort if you can, because no, I've been receiving resumes for us 8 years from thousands of people. Very, very few people tailor. Very few, 1%. I would say that's a lot. So
it's a big disservice that service members are doing, and if they're not tailoring their resume.
right.
And really, there are 3 really easy, free resources that service members should be looking into. I suggest service members creating a transition team. When they are looking to transition out of the service, they shouldn't be going about it alone. There have been millions of people who have transitioned successfully ahead of them. And then there are people, that's their job. That's their everyday job, is to help you. So your local transition office, you're going to have counselors in your local transition office that are going to be well-versed in resume writing.
Mhm.
Give them your evaluations. Let them pick it apart and then write a resume for you. Hire Heroes USA. They're a nonprofit organization that hire transition counselors to help service members transition successfully. The USO Pathfinder Scout program, same thing. They hire transition counselors to help you transition successfully. So send all of your evaluations out to all of them and see what you come back with. You don't have to go about it alone. The best thing really is to learn how to craft a resume yourself. So that way you're not always relying on other people, right? But it's good to get other people's input as to, their keywords and sentence structure and how to use the STAR method, right? Taking credit for the things that you've done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're not going about it alone.
That's awesome. Yeah. And one of our viewers, John Busey, who's online, he just texted. He's one of the top executive recruiters in the country. So John, thank you for jumping on and hearing Dave. But he mentioned that the resume's job is just to get you the interview, right? That's it. The resume is not to get you the job. You got to do that yourself when you're in the interview. So don't try to do too much with that resume. Get yourself in that door. Good.
John,
awesome advice.
That's a perfect statement, John. Nice.
Next, interviewing. What do you think about interviewing? Now you got that resume, got you in. Now what do you do?
Yeah, so interviewing is all about crafting your story. Be confident. Prep your answers. There are a lot of resources online right now that you can, common interview questions. And this is also where informational interviews ahead of time with folks that are already working for that company are really going to help you. Amazon has, what is it, like these 15 pillars of leadership or 15 pillars of something, right, that they strongly believe in. And if you're unprepared to answer what are those 15 pillars, how do you incorporate those pillars in your life? You're not going to get a job at Amazon, right?
Right.
So that's probably where, networking, we're going to go back to networking, right? Reach out to those people that are already doing the job at the company where you want to work and find out, what was the interview like for you? What kind of questions did they ask you, right? And then preparing. If you're not preparing ahead of time, you're not doing yourself a service. Trying to wing it is just not going to fly, and you're going to stumble and stutter and not really give very good answers. Always remember the STAR method, right? What did you do? To what extent? What were the results? What was the impact that you did? So always remembering that kind of stuff. Answering the question in a full, well-rounded way, so that way you're painting a good picture for that recruiter.
Yeah, that's there's a theme of what everything you're saying. It's all these things. It's like the easy stuff. None of this takes a great deal of skill to spend an hour before an interview just doing that research. Dig in there so you can go in prepared. The question. It's anyway.
Yep.
Good. All right. Next one. Oh wait, did I miss one? Hold on. Nope, I didn't. That was it. All right. So you got the job. How now, when you're employed, how do you really set yourself up to be one of those superstars so others notice you and get you on that fast track?
So having a good work ethic always helps. Okay. If you're just one of those people that are looking to do the minimum, clock in, clock out, not really do anything more than what the minimum is, people are going to see that. And then if you go above and beyond and you start helping your coworkers and managers and people from other departments, people are going to see that too. It's really just providing that value, right? Showcasing, highlighting who you are and what you're about. Now, if you get a job that you're not really happy with, well, then you're not really going to put your best foot forward. You're not going to go above and beyond. You're not going to provide that value to your team and other teams within your organization. So that's why it's so important for you to get that right job with the right company. So not only putting your best foot forward, but then also, have recurring meetings with your bosses and speak specifically about what does success look like to you,
Yeah.
Right? Asking your boss, what does success look like for you? Okay. Where are you looking to go? Where are you looking to drive this train? How can I be a part of that? And then what do you see this role, the role that I'm filling right now? What does that look like for you as far as success? You know, if you were to rank me, if we had a team of people and we were all equal, right? We're all doing the same thing. What would make me stand out over all of my peers, right? What would I need to do in order to be the best worker for you? Okay. And so that conversation should be fluid, especially because most companies, right, what they're looking to do is fluid, right? They're creating new lines of business, or they're opening new accounts, or whatever the case may be. So you always want to see what value you can provide, and what direction the team is going, and how you need to pivot and change your daily routine in order to match the goals of the company.
I love that, because so many people are afraid to like talk to the boss, but I love it. Just like going right at him and saying, listen, come on, I want to do well. Tell me what I have to do well. What do I have to do for you to get that, to be that superstar for you? And then it's very clear, right? You hit those goals, and then they're like, oh God, the guy hit the goals. I better give him a raise, better give him a promotion. So I love that. That's just straight on perfect advice there.
Yep.
Last one. This is something you're doing every day, and pay it forward. Talk about why that's so important for people who've had success, whether landing a SkillBridge job, landing a career, or for a job after service. Why should they look back to their brothers and sisters and see if they can help out?
Well, I think that's one of the great things that our military does, is create camaraderie, right? There's little organizations within our military, right? So in the Navy, we have the Chiefs Mess, right? They call each other, brothers and sisters, right? And all of us, across the board, we call ourselves, brothers and sisters. My transitioning brothers and sisters. It's really that camaraderie, right? It's I've served with you, I've gone into battle with you, I've put my life on the line, you've had my back, you've saved my life, right? Yeah. Those kind of things. We want to see each other succeed, whether we do 4 years or whether we do 24 years. So paying it forward, I think for me is both positively and negatively, right? So what are the good things that work for you, and why did they work for you? And then how can I implement that on myself, right? And replicate that. And then also, what didn't go well for you? What did you either on purpose not do, or what did you do that didn't work out for you? Okay. You can learn just as much from the positive things as you can from the negative things. And so I think it's really important for us to take the advice of those that have gone before us, and then also create our own transition journey, and then look back and provide that information for those that are following in our footsteps.
Yeah, that's awesome. Outstanding. Hey, Dave, I cannot thank you enough for taking some time today and sharing your wisdom, your tips, your advice. You are one of this community's true superstars, and I know you're doing it for all the right reasons, and you're making an enormous impact on a lot of people, me included. So thank you for all of that. Anyone out there listening who is interested in our help at Seven Eagle Group, please join our talent network at seveneagle.com. We have about 25 recruiters on our team here. So that'll give you, that'll put you on our radar. So when we get assignments from our hiring companies, whether that be for SkillBridge or for full-time jobs, we'll be able to reach out to you. And then we also share those resumes with any other SkillBridge provider who is interested, because we want to see you get placed. That's a big goal of ours. Please check us out. Follow us on our social outlets. We'd love to continue to be able to share advice like what Dave provided with you. And then again, anytime you need a one-on-one call with me, I'm always available. There's my calendar. Thank you guys so much for listening. Dave, thanks again, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Jordy. Have a great day.